29th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, despite continuing to be sick, we continue getting into it week with German board gaming.
Let's do this.
So you're all aware that last night, I said that my new motherboard was coming today. And it was coming today. And UPS in their infinite wisdom decided, you know what? We've technically got one more day before the deadline to deliver this. So we're just not going to ship it to Rim. No, we're not.
So you lied, basically.
Basically, they lied. The thing is...
You lied, though.
No, I didn't lie.
Yes, you did. On the show yesterday, you said, tomorrow I'll have my motherboard unless something. But the something wasn't UPS doesn't bring it. The something was something else.
Oh, was it? Well, the point is, it's not lying if you in good faith say something knowing that someone else will come through and then they don't come through.
Even though you may not be making yourself the liar, someone else made you a liar. So
That's
you can't
different.
really be blamed for it, but you still lied either way.
I don't think you did, because when you said it, you weren't lying. Therefore, it wasn't a lie. At most, the situation changed after
If
the
you
fact.
say something as definite and you say it about the future, there is always a risk that you will end up being a liar, and you must know that risk.
I don't think that qualifies as a lie.
So if I say something about the future and it turns out to be wrong...
As has been showed in every D&D game, if you believe something to be true, then you are not lying. Because had you cast Detect Lies on me and I'd failed my save, that statement would have been true when I said it. Otherwise, Detect Lie becomes a wonderful way to figure out what's going to happen in the future. You cast it every day and say, I am going to live another day.
What if you know augury or some such, or even divination, and you don't bother to use augury or divination, but you say something about the future anyway?
It's still not
and
a lie.
You didn't even bother to check.
It's only a lie if you willfully deceive others.
Well, you were willful. And
I
deceived.
don't... okay.
So this computer that didn't show up.
Yeah, well, it's going to be here tomorrow. And luckily, I'm taking Thursday
Watch,
off
it
of
doesn't
work.
come tomorrow.
Well, if it has to come tomorrow, otherwise I get some money.
Well, how are you going to get money if it doesn't come tomorrow?
Because UPS didn't ship it within the required time.
So how do you get money from that?
Civil lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That works.
It's going to come. But like I was saying, I took the day off work Thursday, so it's going to come tomorrow, and then I'm just going to stay home all day fiddling with my new computer.
That sounds like a good plan to me, because current computer, still a piece of shit.
Current computer doing just fine.
You seem to always say it's doing just fine until it doesn't do just fine.
I point out that the computer I have right now runs better than a lot of our friends' computers.
It has nothing to do with the hardware.
Oh, no, it has nothing to do with the hardware at all. But I'm mostly disparaging our friends.
Yes, who don't know how to use their computers or maintain them.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, of course, that's most people, period.
Well, no, because
especially Windows users.
Most people don't even have a computer. Have never even seen a computer.
I guess most people, period, yes.
Yeah.
So, oh well. I don't have much to say today other than I'm still kind of sick, mostly in the nose, stuffiness area. But I got a little bit of news. If you don't know, there is an award called the Spiel des Jahres, which is the game of the year. It's given out in Germany because that's where all the good games come from, at least the board games. And the nominees for this year's Spiel des Jahres have been announced. And you know what? I don't know who any of these games. I've never played any of them. I've never heard of any of them. So there's really no point in talking about them. If you really care, you should go to like Board Game Geek or BoardGameNews.com. You'll see a list, and you can check out all the games yourself.
That was the stupidest news ever.
That's not my news.
So why did you bring it up? We're not going to talk about it.
No,
you don't have any
no.
insightful commentary.
You didn't even let me finish the stupid news.
No, I didn't, because you already told me what you're going to say, and I just wanted to be difficult.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, so continue.
So this guy wrote this really interesting article about the Spiel des Jahres. And I was like, you're right. It's pretty cool. And basically what he says is that us as gamers, we don't really
I believe you mean we.
Yes, we as gamers, we have really no stake in the Spiel des Jahres. I mean, like, sure, we care. You know, we'd like to know which game is the winner, because then, and which games are the nominees, because that gives us a better idea of what games are really good. And traditionally, games that win are really good. So that we want to know who wins. But do we really care if game A wins or game B wins? I mean, does it really matter to us? No, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, do I really care? I mean, maybe one game is already my favorite game, and I want that to win. but
that never happens.
is that really
because
going to hurt me? I mean, it's already my favorite game, and I already own it. So what do I care if it wins
doesn't
an
matter
award
anyway,
or not?
because the games that are up for this usually aren't always released in the U.S. until after. Because the people who bring the games over to the U.S. tend to only bring over the super good games, or the games they know will sell.
Yep. So these games, I don't even have a chance to play them yet or make them my favorite. So I don't really care which one wins. I have no stake in it whatsoever. The people making the games have a tremendous stake. If you make a normal board game and you release it, it'll get between, 500 and 3,000 copies sold, depending on, the quality of the game and how popular it is and whatever. If it gets nominated for a Spiel des Jahres, you're probably going to sell 10,000 copies-ish. If you win the award as Game of the Year, you will sell between 300 and 500,000 copies of that game.
Huh.
That is pretty huge right there. It's basically saying, yeah, these people who just hand out an award decide which game is going to sell. It's like, imagine if they gave the Oscars out before the movies were in theaters, and then everyone would go to see the movie that won the Oscar for Best Picture.
But at the same time,
the post hoc fashion.
I can think there aren't too many games I've truly enjoyed other than momentarily going, that was an interesting diversion that we solved in one playing. Every game I like is either nominated for or wins the award.
Yep.
With rare exception.
Yep, they are excellent at choosing. And in this article I'm linking to, this guy points out a few things, and mostly what he says is he goes through a list of all the Spiel des Jahres, because there's no official, these are how to win. There's all kinds of different games win it all the time, but he says these are common factors among the winners. And I bet you if you made a game that did all of the things he finds that are very common factors among games that win this award, you could probably make a game that wins this award. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of game designers out there in Europe, when they make games, they consider things like this very seriously because that's how to make a game that's going to make the big monies.
I wonder how many of those factors might be mutually exclusive. So what are the factors he lists?
Well, some of them he's like, most of the games were between, 45 to 90 minute-ish kind of games.
What? Almost every German board game is in that range.
Well, no, games that were too short, games that are 5 minutes didn't win, and games that were over 120 minutes win.
Yeah, well, I think that's just a fairly good measure of how good a game is, because long games...
A lot of these things are like that. Games that had a very small range of players, 2-player only, those never won, pretty much. It's always 2 to 4, 2 to 5, 2 to 6, bigger range of players, the better.
You sure it isn't usually 3 to something? Because 2-player games tend to fail.
Actually, no. It's games that have it's not just... if your game is only 2-player, it's not going to win. But if your game has a wide range, 2 to 6, 2 to 7, then it's going to...
I'm just saying, I find that interesting because a wide range is one thing, but it's very, very difficult to make a game that scales at all and still allows 2-player.
Yeah, well, he's talking, games like the most recent winner, Thurn in Texas, 2 to 4.
Yeah, even though I really don't like Thurn in Texas.
Which didn't win, but Kalis was, 2 to something?
2 to 5, I think?
Yeah. They don't seem to have a problem with luck in games. There's only 3 games that have ever won that have absolutely no luck whatsoever. But only 9 winners have dice in them, and 18 have some sort of card in them.
Well, I hate to say it, but in general, dice are a sign of a poorly executed game.
Yep.
In general, there are exceptions, like Shogun.
Yeah, and only one game, Liar's Dice, allows player elimination. So if your game has player elimination, your chances of winning are not so good.
See, player elimination is one of those things that I love the idea of it, and I'd love to play a game that had that. But at the same time, I understand that it really sucks if you're trying to play the game.
Yep.
But then again, think of this. How many times do we have a game where it's not obvious who's going to win, but it is obvious who has already lost, but they have to keep playing and keep playing well or to the best of their ability, or the game just doesn't function and you can't continue.
Yep. The one really interesting thing I found was that just about every winner has some sort of shtick. I'm not sure which games of these are winners or not, but the guy uses examples like El Grande with its Castillo and Niagara with its waterfall and what other games?
And what?
All sorts of other games have shticks like that.
Now, what's the line between a shtick and just a game mechanic? Because the Castile is a very straightforward game mechanic of you can always dump guys in this thing, and you have to keep track in your head because you can't see what's in there. What's the line between game mechanic and shtick?
Oh, I think I didn't read it right. He says he tried to figure out if games that had a shtick or a unique component or mechanism were more likely to win or not, but it wasn't easy for him to determine that because it was hard for him to tell which things were actually unique components or mechanisms and which ones were just refinements or reorganizations of other mechanics.
Exactly what I just said.
Yes, maybe.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So what else?
I don't know, but read the article for yourself. It's really interesting to say, look at all these things that these award-winning games have in common. So that's what makes a really good game. Or does it? Or maybe that's what makes an award-winning game. And maybe there's a lot of games that we're missing out on because people are trying to design games to win this award so they can sell 500,000 copies instead of trying to make a better game that maybe does some new and exciting things.
Or do we just not hear about the games that try the new and exciting things because they're not fun?
It could be. It could be.
So there's some blog, and they wrote about this, which just gives me an excuse to talk about it. A lot of people are happy about the quote-unquote rise of cooperative play in video games. And I think a lot of people now don't realize that cooperative gaming was huge back in the day.
And it fell.
And it kind of just didn't go anywhere. And there was a long period of time when very few games implemented it at all. Or if they did, it was definitely tacked on after the fact.
Yep. I mean, back in the day, for the NES, pretty much just about every game had some sort of co-op if it was two-player. I mean...
No, I'd say that almost every game was not co-op at all. They were two-player, but it was two people playing the game completely independently of one another.
Well, sometimes, but you also had plenty of games like Contra, or Double Dragon, or Kung Fu Heroes.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that was by any means a majority, or even a very large proportion.
It wasn't a majority, but it was not uncommon to have many cooperative games back in those days. But afterwards, like in the SNES era and beyond, the co-op play, other than in the side-scrolling beat-em-up games, which died, was completely erased. And like no games had co-op at all. It used to be some games had co-op, then just the beat-em-ups, then nothing had co-op.
Actually, a lot of games did have co-op. It was more that they didn't really use co-op effectively. But yeah, it's funny how there seems to be this craving for co-op play that's just been growing, partly in us, not so much in the gaming community as a whole, though I think people are starting to respect the idea of co-op or two people or friends versus the computer.
Yeah, I mean, who plays Guitar Hero 2 in the versus mode? Everyone plays it in the co-op mode.
Actually, at Katsucon, they had it in versus mode almost the whole time.
Why?
Because that's what people like to play.
I never met anyone who likes to play the versus mode, unless you're like in a tournament or something.
If you never really talk to people who play Guitar Heroes, except our friends.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Granted,
got the impression that the co-op mode was the more popular one.
It seems like the co-op mode is really popular in houses or when you're just hanging out with your friends and playing.
But yeah, I don't know. Why is it that we want to do a co-op mode instead of a versus mode?
That's what I wonder. Why is co-op somehow more fulfilling? However, I will point out that I've had this urge to play co-op games, but every time I've played a co-op game in recent memory, it's ended up being patently unfun.
Well, I think
anytime we played Advance Wars, like a group of us versus the computer, or anytime any of these strategy games against the computer, it ended up being stupid.
Well, I think part of that problem with the strategy game against the computer is that you really can't. It's hard to get the difficulty at a setting where it'll be fun. It's either so easy you just win because you have the combined powers of all your smart friends against the one measly computer, or you give the computer such an advantage that they destroy you.
Actually, I have the opposite problem of I don't want all these other units that are taking away resources from my side acting not in the perfect manner that I've envisioned. I don't play well with others.
Yeah. I think, though, that co-op mode in a lot of these new Xbox 360 FPSs and things is where the action is. And also, what was that game that they were playing at the Gaming for Hope? It was like sort of a Smash TV against aliens on the PC.
I don't remember.
That was looking like a fun co-op mode to me.
I think because there's pros and cons of co-op gaming, like there are any kind of gaming. I think the real allure of co-op gaming, because people are talking about it a lot now, and it's really starting to catch on, and a lot of games are using it, is just that it hasn't been seen a lot done well. So it's something unique. And I don't think it's any intrinsic property of co-op play by itself so much as people haven't really experienced this so much, and it's new.
I also think that people tend to just like to play with others, whether actually playing with others adds any sort of meaning to the game. I mean, look at all the people playing MMOs who were like, I'll play with my friends. So any kind of game you play with your friends, even if it's not an MMO, it sort of adds things for people, you know?
Oh, true.
Even if it doesn't actually add to the
I'm
game
just saying,
itself.
I don't think it adds any more on any sort of objective scale from playing versus with other people. Because you're still playing with people. A Mario Party is a Mario Party, regardless of whether you're all working together, or you're on teams, or it's every man for himself.
I also think there's a lot of people who, you know, they might not be so great at games, but if they team up with their friends, then that'll give them, you know, the boost they need to get ahead.
Oh, there was a lot of that in the Dig discussion. A lot of people were saying that almost every co-op game they ever play is one really good person and all their friends who suck.
Yeah, and they tag along to get ahead in the game. Or they're the kind of person who is averse to confrontation and, you know, battling against another person where they're always going to lose. So, but they're social and they want to play with other human beings. They just don't want to be against the other human beings, and they have no problem emotionally being against a computer.
Well, I think the first part of it is more important because I remember all the times I'd go visit our friend Scott out in, you know, his house, and he had all those Star Wars games for the GameCube, and he really liked him, and I just didn't really like him at all, but he wanted to play him with me. So we'd play in the co-op kind of, not necessarily straight against each other, but kind of working together mode, because otherwise he'd just destroy me and it wasn't fun. Mm-hmm. And that was the only way it's like the only way players of disparate skills can play together, because people seem really averse to handicaps.
Yeah, I mean...
Granted, I can't stand handicaps, and I'd rather just not play than play with a handicap or deal with any of that.
Yeah, I would also rather not play than play with a handicap, but I don't know. I think it's just that some gamers, you know, they go all out on a game to the point where their skills are so far above and beyond what anyone else can get because they're not willing to put in the dedication. Therefore, it's like two people want to play a game. They want to play it with other people. There's not really anyone else around, but their skills are so disparate that they can't play with each other in a way that is fun. And if there's a co-op mode, that would make it possible. And I think that's part of also why co-op mode is becoming more popular.
Well, because I gotta say, the great co-op experience I ever had were all in Doom and Doom 2.
Counter-Strike, NS.
Counter-Strike, it was always kind of fake, because it was always co-op, as in, we're cheating against a bunch of other people because we're in the same room.
Well, I mean, not necessarily, but like, it's a team game. It's a whole bunch of us versus a whole bunch of them, not one versus a whole bunch, like in a one-player game.
I don't know if that's the same as co-op, because it seems like once you have the versus mechanic, then co-op has been strong as ever, because every FPS is that way.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, does co-op count if it's a bunch of people on the same team versus a bunch of people on the same team? Or does it have to be a bunch of people against the computer?
I think it's really just a bunch of people versus the computer, because then I think the real thing
So
here
if you
is...
play Counter-Strike with bots, is that co-op?
No, because the thing is, if you play through a whole game with a plot or a story or some sort of progression with another person, that is co-op. If you're just playing with other people toward a common goal in a transient game, it's not co-op, it's just Counter-Strike.
Well, so like the Crystal Chronicles, actually.
Crystal Chronicles is definitely co-op.
See, I think the best kind of co-op out there is the Four Swords kind of co-op. That's where the action is.
Or the Crystal Chronicles, equally good.
I think the thing is that the reason I put Four Swords ahead of Crystal Chronicles as a game is that most of the game of Crystal Chronicles is honestly just gauntlet, walk around, hit the bad guy. Whereas Four Swords, the hit the bad guy is not, you know, about level and items and stuff. It's about Zelda hitting action skill.
But by the same...
And there's barely any bad guys. It's mostly puzzling and competing over resources.
By the same token, though, the Four Swords puzzles are trivial, and the only actual difficulty ever encountered in Four Swords was simply getting your links walking around to all the places you have to go. It's just the time it took.
Well,
there was no thinking.
Is that that's the one area where co-op play has it can do things that no other method of play can do, and that's giving you challenges that require coordination of multiple people at the same time.
But I also point out that Four Swords is only fun because people can blow each other up and set each other on fire. And all the fun things we remember are when the game gets totally derailed after someone gets the fire wand.
I don't know. That usually sort of annoys me, and I kind of like going through the game and like, all right, everyone stand on the 4 squares. Where's the key? Where's the key? Up. All right, you put the key in the door.
I don't know.
Oh my god, I'm gonna fight for all those rubies.
I never feel really immersed, and I feel like the rewards of doing better than everyone else or anything in Four Swords wasn't as rewarding as the experience of Crystal Chronicles.
Oh, I feel pretty rewarded playing Four Swords, and mainly I just haven't played enough of it.
See, that's the thing. We've played very small bits of Four Swords over a long period of time. We played all of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles in one go.
Yeah, I wanted to play Four Swords in one go for the longest time, but it's never happened.
Because no one wants to give up their week. We're the ones who do the podcast and don't have any free time, yet none of our friends are willing to give up a whole weekend to play video games.
I'm sure we'll say that we're going to do it someday, and we'll just be shit talkers, and we won't do it till we're retired old men. I'm sure if they made a DS one, we could do it. But, oh well.
Well, the thing is, I'd do it in a second. It's just we can't find 2 other people to do it.
I know. Wusses.
Well, I'm sure Katsu would do it in
Yeah.
a second, but he can't play on Saturday, thus defeating the purpose.
Yep.
Oh well, we should probably just do a show on co-op gaming at this point.
I think there just was a show on co-op gaming.
Not really, we skipped over a lot, and we didn't actually defend any of our positions to go into any real detail.
Oh well, that's fine.
Things of the day. Now, there's a video on YouTube about a Counter-Strike PSA, which is actually pretty funny, partly because if you've ever played Counter-Strike, that happens often. I can't express to you how many people like to explain to me in Counter-Strike in great detail how high they are right now. Man, I'm so high. Dude, plant the bomb. Smoked a blunt just now. Plant the fucking bomb. Woo!
Yeah, at first, based on the title of the video, I thought it was something I had already seen in the past. And when I started watching it, I was like, I've seen this before. But then the punchline came, and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this one. Aha, it's funny.
But that's not my thing of the day.
Oh, it's
because
not.
While I watched that, I clicked on the dig comments looking for related things because lately people seem to always post the better thing that for some reason didn't get dug up. And sure enough, in there, I found a link to this video, which get past the first bit where nothing's going on, wait until he starts talking, and don't worry about the fact that his talking quality is not the highest.
And his voice is very nerdy.
Because this is probably 50% comic gold and 50% lame, but the comic gold is such good comic gold.
And everything he says, comic gold or not, is a 100% accurate description of the game of Counter-Strike. And if you've played Counter-Strike, then you will say, oh, yep, that's accurate. And if you haven't played it, you'll go, oh, so that's what that game's like.
This is definitely a case of the writing's great, the concept's great, he just needs someone to execute it better. If one of you out there take all the jokes he made, condense them, and do a stand-up routine, it would be genius.
I like the part best where he starts talking about all the different weapons.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, take the MP5, make it weaker in every possible way, and more expensive, and that's the UMP. He's like, yeah, get the TMP. They will, people who use it will say that it has a high rate of fire, good accuracy, and a fast reload. All of those things are correct. But in order to do even 1 point of damage, you need to hit 40 rounds directly in the head of your enemy. Yeah.
I don't know, the part where he starts emulating how you were supposed to react whenever you ever get shot. Oh my god, what the fuck? Fuck this game. Counter-Strike is bullshit. And yet you keep playing for 4 more hours.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
It's definitely worth watching.
Makes you want to play Counter-Strike again.
Yeah, Counter-Strike is probably going to be the first game I play once the new computer's up and going.
Yep, I'll boot it back up. Why not?
Well, after GLX Gears.
I mean, now that I'm mostly using for computing my laptop and my computer at work, my desktop at home really isn't getting used at all, except for like downloading torrents and then transferring them to the computer downstairs.
Play Counter-Strike with me? We'll both go join a server and see how much skill we've lost in the last 7 years.
I predict we've lost 99% of the skills.
I don't know. We were pretty badass.
We're pretty badass in the olden days. I've tried to play Counter-Strike Source a couple times, and I just got owned.
Oh, Source is for losers. I'm playing 1.6.
I know, but I tried to play that too, and I got owned. It was like months ago, so.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. But if you Source, while I don't think it's got some problems, it's not perfect. I don't think it's that bad. Like, it's not just this useless game. It's all right.
Yeah, but everything I read, people seem to say that 1.6 is just a lot more refined.
Are those the
works
same
better.
people who are playing and they get killed and they go, "Oh man, Counter-Strike sucks"?
No,
they
because
play Counter-Strike Source and they go, "Oh man, this game sucks."
I think I've decided that all those people in Counter-Strike, they don't go anywhere else on the internet. As far as I can see, they exist solely in Counter-Strike.
It could be.
I think that, if anything, the only other place those people exist is YouTube comments.
Haha. All right, so I had a little trouble finding a gaming thing of the day, so I didn't even bother. I found this really cool video called The Wall of Death. Death! And basically, this is just freaking people being awesome.
It's Braveheart.
Yes, so here's the scene. A metal concert, an outdoor metal concert, the big kind, where it's just, a giant stage and a sea of people. There's a big clearing in the middle of the sea of people that they have constructed on purpose. They know what song is about to be played. If anyone knows the metal band, by the way, I'm sure some people I know out there know what song it is and what band it is, but I don't know. And they know that the song starts off, and then suddenly goes with the crazy part. You know how metal songs go, where they have the intense part. And they get ready, and as soon as the intense part hits, both people on both sides of the clearing run at each other with full steam.
I'm pretty sure the cameraman gets knocked down and the camera broken.
I don't know, but the film survived and is on the YouTubes.
Yes.
I guess the break.com, whatever.
Oh, you mean the fake YouTube?
The YouTube wannabe site.
I really hate all those fake YouTubes because a lot of them don't work well.
Yeah, my only problem, I don't have any problem with someone trying to make a site that does the same thing YouTube does. My problem is if you're going to try to compete with YouTube, because obviously they're trying to compete with YouTube. YouTube was there first. These guys are, Johnny-come-latelys. It's not like they were there before YouTube or anything. You should do better than YouTube in some way. You shouldn't do worse. That's like saying, "Oh, Apple and your iPod, eh? I could beat that. Check out this Zune." We done with things of the day?
Probably.
All right.
So getting into German board games.
Someone last week when we were doing Getting Into It week was like, "Oh, I thought you guys were going to do Getting Into German board games. I was glad you didn't." Well, we're doing it now.
All right. First off, it's very simple. One, if there is a gaming convention near you, and they're all almost identical, go to it, find the German gaming room. It's probably there. If it isn't, then it's a really crappy gaming con. Find anyone and ask them if they'll play a game with you. They'll probably say yes. If you can't find anyone at the con, ask the guy minding the board games if he'll play a game with you. He'll probably say yes.
Also, there are usually scheduled games. Like someone will say, "Hey, I have this game at X o'clock at table 3. Go to table 3 at X o'clock and sign your name, and you get to play." And they'll teach you. They'll teach you how.
Yeah, not only will they teach you how, they're really good at teaching you how. It'll be a bunch of other newbies probably too, and you'll have an awesome time.
As long as it's, listed as being a nub game. Usually if it doesn't say anything on it, it just says we're playing this game at this time at this table, then you can go to it.
Actually,
you only have to worry if it says like experienced player game.
Which it almost never will.
It almost never does.
The only time you have to worry, don't join it if it says tournament. Otherwise, if it's any German board game, it's definitely nub friendly because German board gamers love nothing more than to teach a new person their game.
Yep.
Now, if there's no gaming cons around you, or if you have a choice of what game to play at the gaming con, we're not going to beat around the bush. You should play German board games in this order and exactly this order with little deviation. First, play Settlers of Catan.
Yeah.
It is by and large perfectly the best game possible to teach you what German board gaming is about.
Yeah, it is not a good long-term game. In the long term, playing that game, you will become bored with it, even though some people don't, and it amazes me.
Yeah, the game is fundamentally broken, and one of the big steps of becoming a really good German board gamer is the moment you realize why Settlers of Catan is broken and realize why you're not having fun anymore. Because at that moment, you're ready to play Puerto Rico.
Yep. But regardless, Settlers of Catan, it'll teach you trading. It teaches you, it's a game where if their players are not all already solved the game, it is actually mostly a game of an amount of skill, if no one has the maxed out skill yet. and it teaches you a lot of things you need to know to play other German board games.
It also brings in all the basic concepts of these kinds of games, where the decisions you're making are non-trivial, or at least feel non-trivial. And the decisions you're making matter. There's not a lot of randomness, even though in Settlers there's the dice mechanic.
Yep.
But you won't realize how bad that is until later, so don't worry about it.
And you get all the thematic things of German board games. You know, this is a game where you're settling an island of Catan and trying to beat the other settlers and having the best settlement.
Mostly by trading brick for wood. You need wood because you have a lot of sheep and not enough wood to do something to those sheep.
Hey, Rim, you got sheep? Because I got wood for them.
I got plenty of sheep. You're not going anywhere near your wood.
But I got wood for sheep.
I'm going to cram the sheep into a brick instead.
I don't want brick.
Y'all got a brick?
I only have grain. Okay. But yeah.
Plus, the game is a really good social game because it's one of those rare games that does, at least until everyone's an experienced player, it almost forces everyone to be social within the construct of the game. You have to trade in the game with other players in order to succeed.
You also, on certain opportunities, have to hurt other players in terms of the game. You rob them, or you attack them with a soldier.
Yeah, a lot of people...
Or you use your roads to cut them off.
A lot of people who get into German games or real games as opposed to the more American-style board game, early on, they seem to have this aversion to straight up just screwing another player or harming another player directly. I mean, how many times when you were a kid playing, I don't know, Sorry or Monopoly with your family or your friends, and you saw a move that would clearly harm the person who's winning and put you in the lead, and you either didn't do it because you felt bad about it, or you did it and your family or friends yelled at you for being an unfair player or a bad sport or mean, or they took it personally. And there's really this aversion. You can't have that in German games. In German games, to win, you have to take direct action against other players sometimes.
I mean, not every game involves direct action. And there are, in fact, many German board games where there is no way to hurt anyone else. They're just races to get the most points most quickly.
However, many of those games are zero-sum, so you do, in fact, hurt other players anytime you take an action. But that's much more indirect.
Yes, but there are games where you either directly or indirectly hurt other players within the context of the game, and you have to get used to that. And in Settlers, that mechanic exists a bit, and it will help you get used to that.
But at the same time, the mechanic in Settlers is so mild that it's a nice stepping point between not screwing other players and the full-on Adebisi.
I was wondering how you were going to say that.
So, I mean, I can't say more than that.
And it's on Xbox Live right now, and it's also on the internet in many places. You can just play this game.
Yes, if you want to get into German gaming and you have an Xbox 360, play Settlers of Catan on your Xbox right now. If you haven't already gotten it, you're a fool. This is the best way to get into German gaming that is ever going to be presented to you, unless you live near us. So,
after you play Settlers, you got to play another game, because you're not going to be excited playing one game over and over again, are you?
Well, plus, once you play Settlers, because I remember very specifically the first time I actually played Settlers of Catan, and I lost horribly, but I started figuring out what was going on, and afterwards, I started having this craving for games, the likes of which I've never known before, and then I went to Millennium Games and discovered that, wow, not only is there more than one of these games, but there's hundreds.
There are lots and lots of games.
You're going to want to play a lot of games like this in a hurry, because Settlers is going to, it's the marijuana of board games. It's going to drag you in, and before you realize
Of course, marijuana we know doesn't actually do that, but that's not the point.
As far as Nancy Reagan is concerned, it's the marijuana of board games.
There you go.
So, what game do you play next? The answer is Carcassonne.
Yep, Carcassonne. The problem is when you have that craving to play all kinds of German games, you don't know what to buy, though, because you're not into it yet. You don't know. You're just this nub, and you know Settlers, and you know what games look cool, but that's about it.
Yep.
So you're probably, if you just went out to buy a game off the shelf, you probably get something crappy. At least the odds are you get something
Or you'll
crappy.
get something that is really, I hate to say an advanced game, like, oh, you're not ready to play this game, because that's crap. But at the same time, some games are really painful or hurtful or not fun to play unless you are an experienced board gamer.
I mean, it's like, if I played Tigris and Euphrates before I played any other German game, it probably just, like, even though I may or may not have had fun, I may or may not have understood it. It's sort of like if you learn how to read and the first thing you read is Ulysses, it's not going to work out. You know, whether Ulysses is good or bad, I can't say, but you need to have a certain level of stuff within you before you're ready to be entertained by that.
I mean, here's an example. If I had tried to play Age of Steam 5 years ago instead of last year, I probably would have hated that game and hated German board gaming.
Yeah.
But instead, I respect that game for what it is, and I enjoy it.
It's like how a lot of people, it's like they want to start reading comics or manga or something, and they read something bad, and then they just turned off by the whole idea of it. Or the first movie they see is some ass movies. They're just, movies, I don't need them, you know? And it's like, you only want, there was the bad experience at the get-go is no good. But the thing you had a bad experience with may not necessarily be a bad thing. Of course, it could be. But you might have been you weren't ready for it yet.
And also, in terms of this whole getting into it week idea, we're going to try something here. Well, we're already trying it, where we got to be really simple, because I've noticed a lot of people, when they're looking for a how-to guide or anything like that on the internet, they don't want explanation so much, and they tend to avoid anything that goes into great detail. They want to step-by-step do this, then this, then this, then this, and you're done, without taking away the decisions.
Yep.
It's like Ubuntu versus Gentoo.
Yep, but the problem is I think that when people do that, they're actually harming themselves, because you end up not actually learning anything. You end up accomplishing a task without bettering yourself in any way. Or really, I don't think you're really accomplishing the full task. You're doing less than you would be doing otherwise.
But at the same time, when it comes to getting into German board games, I think that if we just give a straight-up list and order of games, it can be very helpful, because we've played so many games. I mean, German board gaming is such an important part of our lives, it's almost frightening. And I think we're at the level, I really don't want to sound pretentious here. I hate that sort of thing.
You're pretentious.
But I think we're at the point where we could say, here is a list of games, and if you play these games in roughly this order, you will come out of it a well-rounded German gamer who will very much...
If you like it. I mean, you might not like it.
Oh yeah, but if you do enjoy these games, I think this is not necessarily the best way, or not necessarily the only way, but a way to experience gaming in the way we experienced it, and to be brought into it in a well-rounded way, to where when you've finished playing our list, you will now know what you like and dislike about different kinds of games, and you'll be on very good footing to become a great German board gamer.
Yep. Well, the next game you want to play is Carcassonne. It's actually a French game.
Yep. I'd say it's also a pretty good game to be your first game if Settlers is not available.
Yeah, I mean, Carcassonne, it was for sale in Toys R Us's and Barnes & Nobles at a time. And pretty much this and Settlers are not only the games you should start with, but they're the most easily available games out there.
Yes.
Odds are you're going to find them. I mean, sure, well, I guess compared to Monopoly and Scrabble and whatever, you're not going to find them, but you will be able to find these even if you have just a slightly nerdy store. I mean, it's not uncommon to just find them in a store that sells mostly comics and then a box of Settlers.
Yep. Now, Carcassonne will introduce you to tile laying, tile placement, all the tile kind of things, and there's a lot of tile games. It takes away the direct screwing,
but it adds a lot of indirect screwing.
Yes, it is a game that you can play it on a very simple level and enjoy it greatly. But there is a lot of unseen depth there, and Carcassonne is a game that it's one of our early games. We played it right away before we played all these other games. And even in this day, even today, Carcassonne is still a complex and engaging game, even for us. Yet, it is equally enjoyable to someone who's never played a German board game before.
Yep, it's also going to be on Xbox Live, if the rumor is correct. And there's many ways you can play it online and whatever.
I don't really want to make this go too long. I don't want to end up reviewing all of these games.
Yeah, let's not review the games.
Yes, but Carcassonne is next. Now, after you have played and come to enjoy Settlers of Catan and Carcassonne, there's a lot of directions you could go from there. Personally, we ended up with El Grande and then Puerto Rico.
Yep.
That's a little bit of a steep curve, but at the same time...
El Grande's not so steep.
Yeah, but I think the jump El Grande, Puerto Rico, it'll really hit you, but at the same time, it'll really bring you into the fullness of German board gaming.
Yeah, I mean, the first times I played Puerto Rico at that gaming club with those guys, like, I was playing it, but I couldn't really see what was a good move, what was a bad move. I was playing it really crappily, and I didn't get much done.
Our strategies in Puerto Rico and our knowledge of Puerto Rico evolved over the course of 4 or 5 years of playing.
Yeah, it's like I had fun playing the game, but I wasn't like I didn't know.
It couldn't have been 5 years. It
I
was like
couldn't
4
really
years.
get the game in my brain, like what to do and how to win and how to get more points. I just played it and had fun playing it. Hanging around a table, saying funny things about the settler and the mayor and stuff.
So
Until we played it 10 times a day.
Yep. But I really would say a lot of people don't like this game, but I personally really like it. A good next step after those 2 games, if you can get a copy of it, is El Grande.
El Grande is an okay game.
El Grande is a good game for early to middling German board gamers because there's a lot to do. It's one of the wooden cubes games.
Yeah, basically, there's a bunch of buckets, and they're not actually buckets. They're just metaphorical buckets. They're countries or provinces of Spain or whatever. And you put the cubes into them, and you're trying to get more cubes into more buckets than other people have.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Settlers of Catan and Carcassonne are somewhat simple, have a limited number of game mechanics, and really kind of teach you what these games are about. El Grande combines a great many of the popular game mechanics into one game and mashes them all together, and it feels extremely complicated, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot to do, and you can play it with a lot of people, and there's a lot of bargaining and second guessing, and there's the Castile and all this fun stuff to do and fun game mechanics. We've got all these cubes and spinners and sliders and wheels and score mechanisms and
Cubes.
it basically pulls you into this other level of board game where you've seen how simple the games can be, and now you see how complex the games can be. It's also very, very fun, and while it does have its flaws, they won't become apparent for a long time, and we played El Grande a lot for a couple of years.
And then we just sort of gave up on it as other games put it out of the way.
Though I gotta say, bringing it out and playing it again after all these years, after having played all these other much more difficult games, El Grande is still a good game, but for entirely different reasons.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, but it's not like I remember it. It doesn't.
Well, I
really,
remember it, but I played it a lot more than you did.
Yeah, it doesn't really do it for me in the way that it did it for me in the past, and
I think
it can
part
be
of that-
fun, but I think it's still.
I point out that
broken.
you haven't played. It's not really that broken.
It's a little broken.
No, it's broken in 3-player.
Yeah.
The 5-player game is really not so broken.
Yeah, maybe, but that might just
Especially-
be obfuscated brokenness.
No, I don't think it is at all.
Oh, well, whatever.
Besides, if you want to get to that mechanic, all board games are fundamentally broken.
Yeah, I get some level.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what point you realize they're broken, and can you use that brokenness to always win against people who don't realize it's broken.
Yep,
That-
Go is broken if your brain is a supercomputer that is more powerful than all supercomputers ever created combined.
But if you can't find or don't want to play El Grande, I would recommend Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and Puerto Rico is pretty much the game of games, and don't be threatened by it because we talk about it like, oh, it's this wonderful, amazing game that is the best game ever, blah, blah, blah. Because while it is, it's not really that hard to learn how to play. It's not like something only smart people can play. You can play it if you're just kind of new to games, actually. You won't understand why it's so great, and you won't do well at it unless you know what's going on.
Yes, what I would highly recommend, if you can, is get someone else to teach you how to play Puerto Rico, which is not difficult. Any gaming convention will have that one guy who will teach you how to play Puerto Rico and then play a game with you.
Yep, the thing is, the problem I have is that if someone wants me to teach them how to play, I will tell them the rules. But if I actually end up playing against them, I won't help them. But if I wasn't playing in that game, then I'd be like, oh, do this because of that. Oh, do this because of that. And then they would learn more. But they end up usually playing against me, and then I don't help them. Because I'm not helping someone I'm playing against. This is not going to happen.
Yeah. Now, once you've played all these games, either El Grande or Puerto Rico, I'd say the next step, and this is still probably my favorite game ever, even though I still think that Puerto Rico is a better game, Tigris and Euphrates.
Yeah, teenies, where it's at, man.
I think Tigris and Euphrates is not it can't be the pinnacle or the peak or anything like that, but it is a game that has such enduring qualities and such enduring power, and it is a game where the strategies are so simple and yet so infuriatingly complex.
Yeah, I think I played this again. I taught this to some random people once at a gaming store, and when we were done, they were like, this seems kind of like an ancient game. Like, if you ever watch, like, the Ten Commandments and, like, the pharaohs just playing some weird game that it doesn't look like any game you've ever seen, and it looks like an ancient, abstract kind of game. Tigris and Euphrates feels like an ancient game. Like, you could imagine yourself some sort of ruler in Mesopotamia playing this sort of game.
It's a very abstract game, and it introduces probably one of the biggest...
It's not unabstract, because a lot of people argue about what it takes to be unabstract game, but it is abstract.
Yes, it is more abstract than a lot of other games.
That's for sure.
I mean, nominally, it's about empires, and I guess that still fits in with the theme.
Yeah.
But there's names for the colors and whatever, and all this fluff that has nothing to do with the game, and no one even pays attention to that.
Yeah, we just say red, green, black, and blue. That's what we say. Not temples, farms, whatever, markets. I don't know.
And the moment you will... Here's how you will know when you are ready to play Tigris and Euphrates. The thing about Tigris and Euphrates that makes it interesting is that there are 4 different kinds of points, and you get them all in the course of the game. At the end of the game, the person who has the most
least
of the least wins. So there are 4 colors. If I have 20 red, 30 blue, 100 green, and 4 black, my score is 4.
Yep.
If you think that is some sort of amazing or crazily interesting game mechanic, and that excites you, you're ready to play Tigris and Euphrates. If that just sounds like some arbitrary crap, you're not ready yet. And I really mean that. You're not ready yet.
Yeah, another game that I think is worth playing if you're sort of new to German games is St. Petersburg. Because
Yes!
St. Petersburg teaches you a lot of things, even though it's a game that isn't too difficult to solve if you play it a lot. But it'll actually, more than anything, it will teach you the fun of, getting into the theme of the German board game.
Yes, it is a game where the symbols are abstract enough to where you will probably engage in the time-honored tradition of calling the mechanics or the components of a game by other names that are not in the instruction book.
I mean, there's an example I heard on a podcast once where a guy was talking about how he went to a gaming con, and some guys were playing Settlers. But they were playing Settlers, and as they were playing, they just talked with Wild West accents. They'd be like, y'all got a brick? I only got this here wood.
Now, that's interesting because one thing that we did as a group, independently from any of these other groups while we played, is we talked like cavemen. And it was cavemen of Catan.
Give brick for wood.
Brick for wood? No, B.
No,
Powerful B.
Grain only. We build road.
Robber B.
Oh.
Bribe do.
Yes, so that is it's like you don't do that when you're playing Monopoly. When you play Monopoly, like, I bought Mediterranean. I got boardwalk bitches. Oh, yeah, hotels. You don't really get into it in a weird and funny way. It's like, sure, a game is all strategy, and it's all about who's smarter and who makes better decisions as opposed to just random winner, and that's great. But when you add on top of that the getting into it and being silly around the game, it's sort of like this double experience. Sort of like when you watch a movie that's serious and has a meaning, and at the end, you're like, ah. But during the game, they tell lots of jokes. During the movie, tell lots of jokes, and you laugh, and there's funny scenes and comic relief. That's sort of what a German game is like, if played properly.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to get into the theme of the game, because the theme of Carcassonne is
French guys building castles.
Yeah, there's not much to it. But you can get into the theme of your playing of the game. Everyone just kind of gets into the game. The trash talking, the camaraderie, whatever it is your group of friends does while you're playing, that is almost more important than the games itself in terms of getting into board gaming. Because that aspect in and of itself is highly entertaining, and it's a great way to get other people to play the games with you. It's a great way to keep yourself interested before you've quite got the grasp of the mechanics.
Yep. And St. Petersburg is the best opportunity to learn this skill,
yes,
if you will.
Because the game
first of all, if you have a Russian accent, you scored big time.
Yes, especially because you can say the names of all the buildings very funnily.
Like, it's the Peterhof.
Oh, Peterhof. Peterhof.
And Pajomkin's village.
Pajomkin.
Yeah, Pajomkin. Yeah, and there's a card for the workers, right? And the symbol for the workers is the chair. So you're like, oh, time for the chairs. And you draw 8 chairs, and you draw 8 chair cards.
Yep. And we're not going to tell you about the rest of them because we really want you to generate these things on your own.
Yeah.
Plus, ours are a little offensive, but I think you'll come up with the same offensive ones.
It's not hard.
It's not hard at all.
Yeah, but a lot of games have these interesting things in them, and you end up just calling them by other names and talking in funny accents, and, like, we play Amun-Re, which is a great game also, and in that game there's a pharaoh, right? And in Puerto Rico there's a governor, and both of those things in either game serve similar tasks, functions. So when we play Amun-Re, we're always like, governor, even though it's the pharaoh.
Yep. Or in Puerto Rico, there's always at the end of any turn, it's doubloon because you put doubloons on anything that wasn't taken, so they're worth more the next time
That's
around.
just something you do at the end of a turn in Puerto Rico is you doubloon them.
So now, in our group, whenever we play a board game...
Like, we'll be playing Settlers, and at the end of a turn, we'll be like, doubloon them.
Doubloon them, pass the governor.
Yep.
And that might sound dumb, and it is dumb, but... it's the shtick that has grown over the course of many years among the front row crew. And if you start playing German board games, you'll start to develop your own shticks, and they're going to be hilarious to you.
Yep.
And that is so critical to enjoying these games.
Pretty much every gaming group I know, and every German board gamer who's really into it, has some sort of shtick going on. There's no one who doesn't have shticks.
Yeah, even the dead serious scary guy that you'll meet at the gaming convention who's sitting there brooding. And when he teaches you the game, he's kind of like a school marm yelling at you like, and this is how you do this. And he'll make some joke in the middle of the game, and he'll get really into it.
Yep. Now, here's a problem I know a lot of people have, is the only two things I think we have left to say in the show is how do you get the games and how do you get players? Because I know a lot of people out there aren't near a nerdy store, and a lot of people out there aren't near a convention. And
Well,
a lot of people out there I see a lot of complaints like, I can't get people to play the games with me. I bought them, but no one will play with me. What do I do?
Well, one, like we said before, Xbox Live, play Settlers there.
Yep, that's a good one.
Two, if you think there isn't a gaming con near you, there is.
There probably is. You should look for it.
There are very few places, at least in the United States, where there aren't gaming cons within a couple hours drive.
Yep. The internet has the answer. Don't come and say there's no gaming con near you unless you search for it.
However, if you can prove that you live in an area where there are no gaming cons, I might just mail you a copy of Carcassonne. Because I still have that extra copy.
Yep. Also, there are many websites where you can play online. Like, there's a German site, Brett Spiel, but I don't use it because the interface is terrible. I recommend the website Spiel by Web, SPIELBYWEB. And you can play a few games and look at the rules of certain games there for free. And that's pretty cool. Basically, it's like emails you when it's your turn. You go to the website, you take your turn. Then it emails you when it's your turn again.
In fact, I'd recommend a lot of you in the forum set something up and try playing games that way.
That would be cool. Lastly, if you have friends, just make them play. What kind of losers are they that they won't try something new? What the hell's wrong? I can understand if someone plays some German games a few times, they don't like it, and then they're averse to playing anymore. But someone who's never played one and is like, I don't want to play, and they just refuse to do it outright, what kind of person is that? Just refuse to try something new just because it's something new? What the hell? If you get new friends.
In terms of getting people to play, even if you've been playing all these advanced games at conventions, if you want to play with your friends who don't like or don't know about this gaming, just pick up Carcassonne or Settlers, even though you've played it a million times, even though you might know it's broken and you're going to win no matter what, and just play it with them. Because the games are so easy to learn, especially Carcassonne, because the only complex part of Carcassonne is the scoring, and you already know how to do it. So they don't need to know anything. The only thing they need to know is how to get points and what to do on their turn. And you know what you do on your turn? You draw a tile, you play a tile, you put a guy on a tile.
Or not.
Or not.
That's all you got to do.
It's really easy to get someone to play the game, unless they're an idiot.
Yep. And also, if you're finding that people don't want to play a game, maybe like the theme doesn't appeal to them. I mean, not everyone likes ancient Italy or something like that. You could go out and try to find a game that might appeal to them. I know Ticket to Ride appeals to a lot of people because it has lots of brightly colored trains and things. And you can find a game out there that possibly appeals to what that person likes.
It's like, I like how your example is brightly colored trains. It's like, if your friend's an idiot, and you think you can ply him with shiny things.
Exactly. There's a game, Niagara, that's actually an okay game. And it has like a working waterfall in the game, and you move little boats up and down in these plastic tiles that slide off the waterfall.
Yeah.
You can get anyone to play that game.
Or it's kind of underhanded, but try to sell people. If your friends are all bookish or nerdly, or in any way have some sort of competitive drive, which I know a lot of geeks do, try to sell him on the fact that this is an intellectual competition, brain bashing against brain. The winner is smarter than the loser. Go ahead and exaggerate. Convince them that this is, like, more tactical than chess.
Because in a lot of cases it is.
Yeah, well, chess is a special case. We'll have to do a show about that, because I like chess and I respect chess, but I don't enjoy chess.
No, I don't enjoy it either. But yeah, if you're having trouble finding copies of the games, they're not hard to get. There are 2 websites that you can just buy these games online and have them sent to you. The ones that I know, that I trust, that I have purchased games from are funagain.com and gamefest.com. So either one of those, whichever has the lower price, will sell you games. They have all of them. And Board Game Geek has a database of all the games that is easily searchable, and they have a ranking of the top games, and there's comments and reviews and rules and everything for every game, and you possibly can't go wrong.
Yes. Now, we didn't mention too many specific games in the show, and we'll probably post in the forums lists of, like, early games, intermediate game. We'll post some sort of thing in the forums about this.
Yep.
Whenever you're in doubt about whether or not a game is good, 1, just ask us in the forums. We'll answer. We've probably played it.
If we haven't played it, Board Game Geek.
Yes. 2, if we don't answer or we're not available, just go to Board Game Geek. The game will be listed, and everyone there in the forum will tell you if the game is good or not, or what's good about it, or you'll be able to figure out pretty much right away if it's up your alley or not. Board Game Geek has never steered us wrong.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, there's lots of ratings on games there. People, rate a game from 1 to 10 stars, and they tell you the current average or whatever.
I also point out that the top lists on Board Game Geek, like the top 10 games, are pretty damn accurate in terms of what the top 10 games are.
All right, let me go there, and I'll tell you what's up there right now. Hold on, waiting for it to load.
I mean, generally, some games stick up there forever, and some flash-in-the-pan games will pop up and then pop back down.
All right, so here's an idea for you. Ready? Game number 1 is Puerto Rico with a rating of 8.38. So if a game has a 7 or an 8, that's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah, think about it. Puerto Rico is still on top right now. When did that game come out? God.
99, I think. I don't know. Tigris and Euphrates is number 2. Power Grid, which I've never played, but I think I might get soon, is number 3.
Isn't Power Grid similar to Web of Power?
No. Kalis is number 4. El Grande is number 5. Twilight Struggle is 6. Battlelore is 7. Princes of Florence is 8. Die Macher is 9. Age of Steam is 10. And Shogun, but not our Shogun, is 11. Ra is 12, etc.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So if you look at that list, those are a lot of pretty good games, and we own 5 of the top 6.
Yeah.
Yes, we own 7 of the top 6 of the top 7. Yeah.
Yeah, surprisingly, Battlelore is up there because Battlelore's not that good of a game.
Well, the thing is, a lot of the ratings have to do with, like, fads and stuff.
Battlelore is one of those.
Like, if a game is new and hot, it'll jump right up because, it'll have an average rating that's really high. But then over time, as more and more people play the game, it'll go down to where it belongs. So it's sort of hard to tell which games are all-time greats and which games are new hotness from this list, unless you look at the years the game came out. If a game is at the top of the list and came out this year, be very skeptical.
Yes, because while I love Kalis, and Kalis is a great game, for the first 2 months after Kalis came out, as far as the internet was concerned, Kalis was Jesus Christ come back to kick your ass.
And now it is probably where it belongs, down at number 4.
Yeah, people talked about Kalis like it was the greatest thing ever printed on cardboard. People went crazy about it. It was like perfect ratings all over Board Game Geek. And then time went on and people were like, all right, it's not that good.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's not that
Yeah, don't
good.
get us wrong. Kalis is in my top 5.
Yeah, but it's not that good. All right.
Yeah,
My
if you
nose
can't tell,
is, like, locked up.
Scott's still pretty sick, and I'm, like, this is probably the last day of me being a little sick. I've actually been having coughing fits, so I think we're done for the night. Yeah, how badass are we? We podcast even when we're sick.
I do. You wussed out last week.
Yeah.
When only you were sick.
I point out that on 50% of those days, you were 50% at fault, thus giving me only 75% of the blame.
That's fine by me. Most blame person you.
75%? That's a C. That's not bad.
It's opposite. So you really, it's 75% bad. So 25% good is an F.
No, I got a C at copping out. That's not bad. That's average. I'm an average cop out. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.